is 1999. That sentence brings me back to my senior kindergarten class when I was 5 years old, where we used to read out the date on the blackboard every single day. The year 1999 exists as a stain in my mind, however, as a memory that will not go away, no matter how hard I try to forget it. 1999 marked the year I lost my first tooth, the first time I got on a plane, and unfortunately the loss of my childhood innocence. That one memory that refuses to be wiped. It all started with that new or old TV. At that time, Pokemon was the latest fad to hit the school. Pokemon cards, games, stickers, and most popular the TV show. Of course, every time I came home from school, I would stay glued to the TV until Pokemon came on at 5. The only problem was my dad watched the news at 5:30, and Pokemon episodes were back to back, which meant I had to miss an episode every day, something I whined on and on about. My dad got tired of hearing me complain every day. That must be why he went and bought another TV. My dad put the TV he bought in my room. Unfortunately, it's just an old small boob tube with rabbit ears even. It also only had 20 channels available, not including the channel Pokemon was on. I recall I didn't even care though. I was just thrilled. I had my own TV in my room. After surfing through the channels, I came to the conclusion that only Channel 2 TVO'd kids was worth watching, so I watched that for a while. It wasn't for another few months until I discovered Channel 21. One day in April, I was flipping through the channels trying to see if Pokemon was on. I pressed Channel 21 into the remote, hoping there was more channels, and to my delight, my dad was surprised too, but he let me watch it since it seemed to have kids programs on. The channel was called Caledon Local 21, and later I found out it was indeed broadcast from the town Caledon, Ontario, a town very close to my city. The shows in Caledon Local 21 looked very poorly made, and I never understood what was going on in them half the time. However, as I grew up, every time I thought of that channel, I realized more and more how messed up the shows were, and I had to ask myself, what the fuck was I watching? Following is a list of shows and episodes I remember seeing on Caledon Local 21. How I remember such detail even disturbs me, but I guess things like this stand out in your mind for a while. The channel only ran a few shows, probably because it was only operational between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. April 1999. Mr. Bear Cellar, Episode 12. Very sketchy name if you were to look at it nowadays. The show featured a guy wearing a bear mascot costume who would get a new visitor into his cellar every day. It was always a kid. The show was filmed with a camcorder, not a very good one either. The police asked me a lot of questions about this show. The episode started with Mr. Bear sitting at a table, playing checkers by himself. He sat there playing for a bit, until there was a knock on the door. The camera was then looking up the stairs at the door, where there was another knock. Mr. Bear climbed the stairs and opened the door to reveal two young children. One was about a boy my age, and the other was a girl who looked about 8. Mr. Bear danced in delight, and then started talking to the kids. I couldn't hear any of them that well. I remember Mr. Bear led the kids into the cellar, which was quite dark, only lit by a small oil lamp on the table. I can't really remember that much more, except for him singing a song which I couldn't hear too well either, probably because that large bear mask. The episode ended with them playing hide and seek, the kids hiding in a closet, and Mr. Bear counting. May 1999, Soup and Spoon. I don't even think this was a show. I think it was more of a special movie thing. All I know is I stopped watching Caledon Local 21 for a while because I thought the show was too stupid, especially since Pokemon now came on at 4:30 and 5. I don't remember much of this, but it showed a can of soup and a spoon, both attached to a string swinging back and forth, and someone who was holding them and dangling them in front of the camera. Interesting enough, the show was shot in a basement, which looked just like the one used in Mr. Bear's cellar. Like I said, I can't remember much. The only thing I could remember clearly was the end. The entire thing was only a half an hour and just included stuff I found stupid, such as a spoon chasing the soup around trying to eat him. The ending showed a table, about 7 kids sitting around it, each with a bowl of soup in front of them. They were sitting and looking at the camera, but with confused, almost frightened faces. The cameraman then held the can of soup in front of the kids and said, "Spoons ready?" And then it just stopped. July 1999 was summer and I watched Channel 21 for a while until one day I slept over at my friend's house. I decided to check it out again. My friend had gotten a TV in his room for his 6th birthday, so we decided to stay up very late. For us, 9:30 was very late. I watched TV. That's when I remembered Channel 21 and brought it up to my friend. We decided to see if it was on, and to our surprise it was. They must have changed the broadcast time. Mr. Bear Cellar, Episode 23. This episode was entertaining for my friend and me, mainly because it had swearing. However, now when I think of this episode, I realized something was definitely wrong when it was filmed. The episode started with the camera on its side, while it was facing Mr. Bear, who was walking upstairs to the cellar door. The camera then backed out for a second before facing in upright and facing Mr. Bear. There was also another kid talking to him, but this kid looked about 11 or 12. He was talking to Mr. Bear for a while, but I couldn't hear well. again with a crappy camcorder, until the kid started raising his voice. The kid was saying how it was late and his sister had to go home. You could also hear the voices in the background. I remember Mr. Bear clearly saying, "Get the fuck out, you're not invited," with a deep voice muffled by a bear mask. I remember my friend and I looking at each other laughing at the mention of the forbidden F word, but the episode got weirder. The kid began climbing the stairs before turning around and saying how he was going to call the police. Mr. Bear began breaking and running towards the kid, who started screaming and running as well. The camera then cut out, and that was the end of the episode. The channel turned to static shortly after. August 1999. I didn't want to watch Channel 21 after that. In August, I grew more curious to see Mr. Bear's cellar for some reason though. The last episode I saw, Mr. Bear was weird and had swearing, which also made me think the show was meant for teenagers. Nonetheless, I flipped on Channel 21 when my dad was busy. Mr. Bear's cellar, 28. Apparently this episode had been playing for the entire month of August. It was studied by the police a lot. The entire episode was just Mr. Bear sitting in the chair talking to the audience. "Hello kids, do you want to visit my cellar? If you do, please write me a letter at this address." The screen then switched to a white screen of multicolored letters reading the address. That is what remained for the rest of the episode. This repeated for 5 hours every day until September came. And guess what I actually did? I sent Mr. Bear, or that sick bastard who portrays him, a letter. I did out of curiosity mostly. My dad was okay with it because he thought it was a legit kid show, but then again, he never saw any of what was on Channel 21, so I wrote a letter using my best writing possible. I think I just said how I wanted to meet Mr. Bear, so my dad sent the letter to the address Mr. Bear said on the show. It stayed on all day anyways for some reason. It took about a week to get a response, which I was surprised I did. I still have the letter. I received it on August 15, 1999. The letter read, "Dear Elliot, thank you ever so much for your letter. I would love to have you in my cellar. We play games, watch movies, and go fire camping in the middle of the woods. Come to my house at," the police cut out this address, "Caledon, Ontario, Canada. I look very forward to having fun with you. Love, Mr. Bear." I can't believe my dad never found this sketchy because he actually took me to the house. And then that's when the police became involved. Those endless questions, those pictures of terrified kids, the woods. That brings me to why I'm writing this blog. That psycho and his friends did some fucked up shit back then, and now it seems he's trying to get in contact with me again. The entire police thing is coming back, and that has brought 1999 back to me. Over a decade later, it's happening again. Update, November 14, 2009. People have been emailing me asking what exactly happened in 1999. I'll get to that. Those weird TV shows I was watching apparently were meant to attract kids to Mr. Bear's house. When Mr. Bear did shock the entire town, my dad actually drove me to Caledon along with the address Mr. Bear left on the letter. The house was actually in the outskirts of the town, in the open farmland. I still remember that house. It looked like an older farmhouse that looked at and built in the early 1900s. The windows were all boarded up and looked to be in a state of disrepair. As we walked up the house, I remember my dad checking the address over and over again and looking at the house in disbelief. Then the door opened. I expected Mr. Bear to be at the door, but I was surprised to see a police officer emerge from the creaky doorway. The officer began talking to my dad while I quickly asked myself if that was Mr. Bear's house. The officer's face cringed slightly and muttered, "Oh God," or something like that. He started talking quietly to my dad so I couldn't hear, although my dad told me to go to the car anyway. And then we just went home. My dad was quiet the whole way home. I felt something strange had happened. My dad never told me what happened for a while. I forgot about it anyway too. Channel 21 no longer came on, and when I asked about it, my dad would not acknowledge its existence. I think it was when I was 13 where I learned the truth. I remember Channel 21 one day and asked my dad about it. I guess he finally decided I should hear the truth. Caledon Local 21 was a local TV channel that ran from October 1997 to August 1999 in Peel region of Ontario. The entire channel was made from a house in Caledon, the one I visited, and run by a man who is not known by anyone in the town. The channel was only available to older TVs because the signal was only picked up by rabbit ears, weaker frequency. The man created all the shows on the channel, all of which were kids shows. He was Mr. Bear. He was the mysterious cameraman. The reason he created the channel was more disturbing than what originally thought. As you might have already guessed, he kidnapped kids and held them in his cellar. But while most people thought he was a serial child molester, he really wanted the kids for another purpose. The day I arrived, the man had fled the house the night before. The day before the police went in for their investigation, I wasn't the only one who was watching. Update, December 2nd. 2009. Sorry for not answering any questions for so long. I haven't accessed my email account for some time. Anyway, let me finally set something straight about what I know. Back in October, I visited the house previously owned by the man who ran Caledon Local 21. 2 women lived there operating a daycare business. How ironic. Now, to answer the questions you guys emailed me. Who else watched Caledon Local 21? I know other people watched it for sure, including those kids who wound up at Mr. Bear's house. After some Google searches, I found a few people on NeoSeeker forums who were discussing the show's Caledon Local 21. They talked about the 2 shows I watched, but also another show I had never seen before. A username I Am Real Life seemed to know all about the shows that were broadcast on Channel 21. Here are 2 I've never heard of: The Fallen Angel and Life. I Am Real Life described it as a fairly boring show about a guy rambling on and on in front of the camera about how he must please Satan and appease him before it's too late. Pain with the soul. I Am Real Life. Another user called Sicky92 were discussing this show. They described it as the Blair Witch-like, as it consisted of the cameraman wandering around the forest at night, doing nothing particularly interesting. I'll go looking for the conversation and see if I can find the link. Where's Mr. Bear? And the guy who wore the costume. If I did know, I would have said earlier. I have no idea where the guy is, or if he's dead or alive. Hopefully dead. When I see my dad's friend next time, I'll ask him about this. Maybe I can get some more definite answers. What did Mr. Bear do to children? This is by far the most common question I've been asked. I found out later this October as well, via my dad's friend, who is a retired Caledon regional officer. Apparently the man playing Mr. Bear took the kids out of the house into the forest nearby. What he did there, police are not exactly sure how it happened, but 16 charred bodies of children between the ages of 4 and 13 were found in a 15 by 15 foot ditch within the forest. My friend's dad did not want to go into exact details, but I'm seeing him next Thursday anyways, so maybe I can extort some more information from him then. That's all I have for now. Thanks for keeping interest in my blog. I'll try to gather as much information as I can for my next post. I've actually been getting pretty interested in this myself. It should be my right to know what the hell happened. Update, January 14th, 2010. I'm sorry I haven't posted anything for a while. I've kind of lost interest in this blog since I hit a standstill while looking for some more information about the identity of the owner of Caledon Local 21. However, a few weeks ago I struggled. I found some answers, surprisingly, from the father of a kid I used to babysit who lives just across from the street, and I used to look after the kids when they were younger. He currently doesn't have a job either. He used to live near the woods outside Caledon and witness the owner's activities in the woods. His name is Anthony Polo. When he lived in a small bungalow outside the woods, he would often venture to smoke a joint or marijuana or 2 before returning to work as a woods craftsman. Polo described that sometimes he would hear voices of children coming from deeper in the woods, as well as a glowing light off in the distance. Polo told me that these events started late in 1997. Note, this is around the time Caledon Local 21 began airing. Apparently, he became annoyed by this happening every once in a while and actually went to investigate. Polo then described what the whole scene looked like when he got there. There was a group of kids, he said about 13 to 17, and ages 5 to 12, gathered around a large fire pit and burning fire. With them was a single adult. Polo talked to the man, noting his unusual, unkempt appearance of a crack addict, as well as his content twitching, and asked what he was doing out in the forest with children. The man said they were on a camping trip, something they did frequently. Polo, not suspecting anything, Caledon has one of the lowest crime rates in Canada, simply left it at that and told them to be quieter. Polo then paused for a while before telling me that they never became quieter. In fact, sometimes he heard loud chanting from the children in an unknown language he did not bother meeting with in man again as he was moving away. I told Polo that the man was probably the owner of local Caledon 21, but he doubted as he heard the man was moving to Pickering by several other residents near that area. Here is what I do know. The man would take the kids into the woods regularly for camping. The fire pit Polo described may be the hole the bodies of the children were found in. The children Polo saw probably were the ones found dead. The man moved to a city called Pickering, a small city east of Toronto. I will discuss this with my dad's friend, the ex-cop, and see if this matches with anything the police knew about the man. I also want to see if this has any other knowledge of what aired on Caledon Local 21. Update, February 10th, 2010. Good news, guys. I talked to my friend's dad and he disclosed a lot of information for me. First, I asked if the police had any information on the man who ran on Local 21. He replied that they only had the same leads for years and never found a suspect. However, the Peel Region Police do have some tapes found in the house that Caledon Local 21 was broadcast from. He took me over so I could watch a few. I guess I haven't said much about him yet. My dad's friend was Mitch Wilson, a pretty nice guy. He seems to understand my thirst for knowledge and what happened during the late 90s in that house. He feels it was wrong that my dad went so long without telling me much. He took me to Davis Road Police Station. If you don't know, it's the largest station in Caledon and one of the largest within the Peel region itself. Each of the main stations around Peel have some of the tapes. I was able to watch all the footage that Davis Road Station had. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take the tapes home for obvious reasons. Paint with the Soul, Episode 10. Paint with the Soul was one of the shows that I Am Real Life and Siggy 92 discussed on Neo Seeker. I told the police about this and they informed me that episode 12 was when the shows were made and broadcasted between December 5th, 1997 and December 8th, 1998. Exactly as I Am Real Life and Siggy 92 described, the episode opened with the cameraman wandering around a forest. It appeared to be during the evening as it seemed the sun was set. The cameraman walked around a path until he got to an area where there was a lot of garbage lying in the leaves. The camera looked around at various wrappers, bottles, bags, and boxes, making sure each item got a few seconds of screen time. The camera then focused on a single area before the man spoke. I recall he spoke in a very timid, quiet voice, and I swear I've heard it somewhere else before. Like another Caledon Local 21 show, I could barely hear what he was saying, but he mainly talked about humans or garbage or something, and had to do with saving ourselves by cleaning up the garbage, us. It actually sounded really stupid, but still a feeling of dread came over me. I mean, that forest was possibly where those bodies were found, right? Mr. Bear Cellar, Episode 25. When the police administrator brought this tape in, I actually said, "Oh shit," and chuckled a bit out loud. Of course, I got stares from the staff, but Wilson explained to them about my little experience with Mr. Bear and how I still kept the letter he sent me. Like previous episodes, this one included a guy wearing a bear mascot costume. The episode began with Mr. Bear waddling over to his cell door with a bottle of orange juice in his paws. On the ground were 16 shot glasses as well as a small bottle that contained an unknown liquid. Mr. Bear poured an equal amount of orange juice into each glass before opening the smaller bottle and depositing one drop into the glasses. Mr. Bear then went off camera. There were some minor sounds, such as shuffling, and then Mr. Bear emerged from behind the camera location. Following him were 16 children. Some looked as young as 4, while others looked like they were practically teenagers. As the children entered, the administrator commented that this is the only episode that showed all 16 victims. The kids all looked rather content except for one who had visible bruises on his face. Unlike the other kids, he had more fearful expression. He also looked about 11 to 12, which caused me to recognize him. He was the kid who asked about his sister, subsequently met an unknown fate at the end of episode 23. This one episode I watched during July 1999. When I told the administrator this, he confirmed it was the same kid. He was also featured in episode 24, an episode that only aired once at 3 in July 1999. The police have still not found the tape. Mr. Bear then broke into songs singing about circus fruits and how vitamin C was good for you, and I barely hear the lyrics as they were muffled by the bear's mask. The kids all drank their juices, the one from episode 23 doing it rather reluctantly, and the episode ended. After reviewing all the tapes in the possession of Davis Road Police Station, I'm satisfied, but only temporarily. I still want to know the full story, but the police just giving me the same crap about the creator of Caledon, Local 21 being a fetishist pedophile as well as an apparent cultist. I will sign off for now and get into the university first, and information later. Hopefully I will get back into the blog as soon as possible. Update, May 8th, 2010. Last month I finally got my G2 license in Ontario, Canada. This allows you to drive a car by yourself as well with some other passenger after 6 months. I of course took advantage of this and drove into Caledon for the first little Sunday drive since I haven't updated this vlog in a while. I figured I might as well visit the house where the unfinished channel of my childhood was located. The house looked different than when I last saw it in October. The place was no longer used as a daycare and just sat there abandoned. However, it did have a for sale sign showing that someone still owned it, wanting to get rid of it though. The abandoned house drew fuzzy memories from my mind, mainly of that day my dad took me to visit Mr. Bear. A feeling of dread came upon me. What happened to the children while they were living in that house? I walked up the stairs to the front door and peered through the window. Inside I could see a nearly empty hallway with a few boxes at the end. At the end of the hallway to the right was an open doorway, presumably leading to the kitchen. To the left were 2 doors, both apparently leading to the rooms visible through the windows outside. I wondered where the cellar entrance was located and whether it had been sealed up. I walked around the back of the house and found my answer. 2 wooden doors, laying at an almost flat angle, were padlocked shut. This had led to the cellar. Not wanting to hang around, you can't imagine what was going through my mind at the time. I departed. Behind the house, the empty field continued on until it reached a dense forest that lined the horizon. I wondered if that was the forest where the bodies of children were found. I thought to myself, fuck it, and proceeded to walk around the field behind the house, into the forest. The forest was oddly quiet, save for the few periodic sounds of a woodpecker drilling into the distance. I cautiously made my way deeper into the woods, not really caring about the fact that I had no idea where I was going. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like there was something I had to find. I came to a thinner part of the woods, and a few small houses in the distance. Polo's house crossed my mind, and I wondered if one of these houses had belonged to him. I neared a small clearing in which I could see 3 adequately sized logs gathered around a black, charred area, showing a small fire had been lit there recently. Hey, get the fuck out of our fort! Those words nearly gave me a heart attack. I turned to my left and saw 2 dark, clothed people running towards me. My initial thought was to run, however, as they came closer, I saw they were really just kids in their early teens, probably 13 or 14, maybe even 12. As they approached me, they realized my size as well. I'm 6'1". While they could have been no bigger than 5'8", one might have been 5'7". We said get the fuck out. The larger one, who was wearing a Slipknot shirt, had said half-heartedly. I stood my ground and shrugged. The shorter one, who was wearing a Metallica shirt, swung out a butterfly knife and held it in my direction. No, you wouldn't want to, I said in a deep, serious tone, trying to sound like a badass as possible. Trying to sound as badass as possible, I pulled out my cell phone. The 2 kids withdraw, the one Metallica shirt putting away the knife. Look, dude, we don't want people on our fort, so can you just go? The one in the Slipknot shirt said, obviously intimidated. I had no business in the forest anyway, so I uttered out a simple fine and turned before I realized I had a great opportunity. Did either of you guys hear of a guy who murdered a bunch of kids in these woods about 13 years ago? I asked the kids. The 2 looked at each other in confusion before the one wearing the Metallica shirt answered, yeah, everyone knows about that guy. He said to me as if I was stupid. The kid in the Slipknot shirt continued. He still lives around here, in the storm drain. My brother friend says he saw him in the bear costume once, wandering out the forest at night. My instincts told me this was probably a lie, and the owner of Caledon Local 21 is probably long gone, only existing as folklore in a smaller, isolated community. However, as a human, the thought of a mysterious, unknown sparks interest within me. And where is the storm drain? I asked. Just out of curiosity, I don't actually believe it, the kid's story. The kid in the Metallica shirt stared at me for a few moments, his eyes seemingly full of annoyance, yet curiosity for me. You're not from around here, are you? Why did he even come here? Now I do admit, I was slightly startled by the nature of this question. However, I figured I might as well explain why I was here, just in case people misunderstood my intentions. I told the 2 kids about my experience with the man in Caledon Local 21, and I had to come, maybe seek out some sort of closure, although even I wasn't exactly sure. The kids seemed familiar with the channel as they smiled and looked at each other when I mentioned it. They also became more understanding and gave me a detailed description on how to get to the storm drain. Shortly after, I decided to just turn around the way I came and head back to the house, leaving the kids at their fort. But you're probably wondering why I left out such detail about what the kids told me. Is just because I'm choosing to conclude what I gathered now. Here's what the kids told me in detail. The storm drain lies ahead of the kids' fort, the same direction I was heading. The drain ends at a small river where the excess water is drained out. Near here is a small playground. The kids told me people rarely use it. The man supposedly lives in the large pipe that rainwater drains out of. People have seen him, although always either wearing a bear mask or the mask and the full body bear costume. No, I do not believe this is true, and in fact simply a myth made by the residents of Caledon. The story does not seem plausible in any way. Why did no one call the police? Did this guy look suspicious? And other questions like these leave the story invalid. I may visit the storm train, not because I believe the story, but because I want an excuse to visit Caledon again, so this blog doesn't die with more tapes to watch. I don't know what to talk about anymore. Thanks for continuing to support my blog. I know many are looking forward to more information about what happened in Caledon during the year 1999, and I will do my best to continue my research into the topic. Elliot out. Okay, so this is where we're gonna leave off 1999. we're gonna pick this up later, so part 2 coming soon, or, well, eventually, peace.